Hello everyone, welcome back. Until now, we have covered lots of the things that we need in JavaScript, which is actually all of the JavaScript that we have. After this, of course, we have some things like HTML DOM, browser BOM, jQuery, advanced object, classes, and other things, which we are going to talk about them too in the next videos. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the tips that it's good to use inside of our JavaScript. And if we use these tips and tricks, our code is going to be more cleaner and more efficient, and at the all better in performance too. So the first thing that we need to talk about is our variables and scope of the variable. So let's say here we have our simple for loop right here, which we have I, which until I is less than 5, we want to run our code, and I++ right here, which is going to increment our I variable every time. And now here, let's say we want to have another variable of j, but we declare this with our var. So this j variable that we created right here is not in our for loop scope. And all of the documents and codes inside of our index.js, which is our file, can access to this j. So let's use this simple text right here inside of j variable. And now let's simply console log our I plus our j. Actually, we need to declare this I right here too. So now if we run as we expect, we have this 0 text, 1 text, 2, 3, and 4 text. And numbers are this I, which is going to increment every time. And then we have this static text string right here. But let's say further in the code, we want to create another variable right here with the name of j right here. And we want the type and the value to be undefined. So if we again after that console log our j variable into our console, and actually let's write a little thing about this, which this is j variable, and now let's add that with our j. And now this time if we run, you can see that we got this text right here. By the way that we declared our j variable right here, and this should be undefined right here. But because we have created this j right here with this keyword, we got this text right here. But if we use this let right here instead of that, so our j is only be inside of our for loop and this scope. If we use this code and run, you can see that we got our to be undefined as we created right here. Another thing that is very good is that when you writing code, it's good to have your variables, for example, and actually all of your declarations on top of your document. For example, here we want to have some ID right here of, let's say, 1, 2, 3. Then we want to have name, let's say test right here. After this, we can have, of course, our age to be, let's say, 27, and all of our variables right here. And then after these, when we want to run our code, we only use the name of our variable. For example, here, let's say we have a bunch of codes, and between of these, we want to print our variable. So it's very good to have all of our declarations right here. Then when we want to use, we simply just use the variable name right here. For example, this is our ID. This is our name, and this is our age. And now we have declared all of these right here and used right here. And now if we run, you can see that we got our result. And if we want to change some of these values, we don't need to come to these lines and find them. We only need to come to the top of our document and change the values. For example, let's make this like this and make this 25, right? And now if we run, you can see that we maintain that very good. But if you use your variables, creations, and declarations inside of your code, it can be messy and tricky to maintain. Another thing that we have that it's very good and important to say is that when we're creating some undefined variable that we're going to give value to them later. For example, let's say we want to make ID the one right here. We want to make name to come right here. And we want to make age be 30 right here. So one way that we can do is that we create only our variables just like this, which you cannot do this with constant variables. So we change that to var again. And now in this syntax, if we run, you can see we got our code runs very good. But another thing that is important is that we declare and initiate at the beginning of our code the type and the thing that these variables are going to receive. For example, this ID we use number type and int type. So we put this 0 right here. For the name, we use this empty string, and for the age, again, we use this 0 at the beginning. And after we give them new values, we use them inside of our code. The next thing that we're going to talk about is about our objects. You know that we create our objects by the name of object. Let's say here is O1 and these curly braces, and inside of this fields that we have any values. For example, let's say here we have this name, which is Tim. Then we have the car, let's say M4, and at the last, let's say color of shirt, and let's make this to the red. Now, if we print this by our console log right here and print our O1 object into our console, as you see, we got our object right here. And if we have the type of it, again, you can see this is object. But here, if we use this let instead of our const, and here inside of our code, we have this O1 to have, for example, some text right here. If we run like this, you can see that we got this text and string type. But if we use this const keyword right here, as you know, in these declarations, we got error of assignment to constant value. So it's good to create your objects and declare them by const Q. And as same as this, it's good to have your arrays just like this too, because we can have the same issue with arrays too. After this, we are going to talk about creating empty variables inside of our code. So as you know, we have a bunch of data types that we can work with them. For example, we have this A1 to be string, which you can use both of these empty string right here or this new string as new string object inside of our code. As same as this, we're going to have our new number. The third one is going to be new boolean value. And let's say we have two other values of our object, which we can use this object right here. And at the last, let's say we have one B2 new array right here, which you know that these are our classes that we create our objects by using our classes constructor right here, which we can give some values to them, and those gonna create those for us. And here, if we console log our A1 variable, you can see that it has created some string with the value of this one, which we typed right here to us. But pay attention, if we check the type of our A1 right here, you can see that we got object, but we want strings right here. So it's good to have the actual string creating inside of our variable and not creating object of string. And this rule and this step is going to apply to all of these items. So for example, in this boolean, if we use this true, of course, if we use this A3 right here and run, we got this object. And if we print that, you can see that we got the boolean value of true. But if we want to maintain them good and be in efficient way, we need to remove these new classes that we declare and create object with them. And for empty string, we only use this double columns, or we can use columns instead, or another way of backticks. For our number, it's good to start with 0. For our boolean values, we make it false at the first, so if it changes, it be true. For our object, these curly braces, of course, and for the array, these brackets. Another thing that we want to talk is our type conversion. So you know that we have these types. For example, let's grab this A1, which is a string right here. Now, if we check the type of our A1 here, you can see that we got our string. But if further in the code, we got our A1 to filled with some values, and that value not passed in the string and passed in the number, for example. And now if we run this again, you can see it has converted that into number. So beware of that what you code and how you maintain them. If you want this to be string, for example, you can use your ternary operator or if else. For example, let's say here we have value in this v variable right here, which is 20. So when we put this into our A1 and run, it's going to give us number. So we want to check, we say check if type of v equal to string, equal that with our A1, else, for example, console log v is not string. Actually, we need to make this string like that and not object type. And now, because our v is number 20 right here, if we run, you can see that we got the error of v is not string, and we got the type of our a to remain a string again. Actually, let's print this A1 here again. So you can see that we got the empty variable because there is no such thing in declaration of this variable. But let's say this time, this 20 is our test text right here. Now, if we run, you can see that we have this test text, which is this console log, and this string right here. And again, we got our a to remain in the type of string. And one of the common mistakes in JavaScript is using this value comparison and this value and type comparison inside of our code. Of course, you can use both of them in different situations, but be aware that when you use this type, for example, in this example, if we run, as you see, it's going to run. Actually, let's make this to simple if statement so it's very easier to explain. So let's say here we have this if statement, which has this console log of condition is true. And in the else part, we got printing of condition is false. Now here, if we check 1 equal to true, because we use this one as Boolean values, which 0 is false and 1 is true, this is going to give us true value. And we're going to run this part of code. And now if we run, you can see, actually, we need to make this log, not like that. And now if we run, you can see that we got the condition is true. But let's say we check the type 2. Now if we run, you can see that we got the false value. By the way, that this means true, but at the old, this is Boolean type and this is number type. Because if we check the types of those two, let's say here we have console log and our type of right here. First, we check type of our number right here and then this true right here. If we run, as you see, the first one, which is this, is going to be number, and the second one, which is this, is going to be Boolean. So these are same in the value, but not same in the type. Now let's talk about another thing, which is in our function. Let's say here we have our simple function right here of sum, which is going to return a plus b for us. And here, of course, we have a and b. Here in the code, if we run our sum function with the value of 1 and 2, actually we need to make this console log just like this. And now if we run, you can see that we got the value of 3. But what happens if we use only one number right here? If we run, you can see that we got not a number. Because here, if we check the type of those again, we have console log type of A, and as same as this, type of B. And now if we run, you can see that one of them, which 1 and A, is going to be number, and the second one, because we have not defined anything to that, it's going to be undefined. So we can handle that missing arguments inside of our codes, because as you see, it can break our code with this not a number error, for example, right here. So the thing that we can use is, let's use our ternary operator right here. We say if a equals in the value and the type to the undefined right here, we want to make a to 0. And then we want nothing for the else part. So let's fill that with simply this empty string. And we got the same thing for our b variable too. And now if we run, you can see that we got sum of this is 1, because here a is going to be 1 and b is going to be undefined, and our code is going to put b into 0. And of course we can have different values right here. For example, let's make both of them to the 1. Now if we run right here, you can see that we got the value of 2. And actually you don't run this one because the a is the first variable, and we're going to define always that and give that into our function. But maybe in some cases we have passed undefined variable right here. Again, in this case, because our a is undefined run, we got the result because of our code and handling that undefined variables. And another way of declaring default values is here inside of our code. So let's say here we want this to be 0 and we want b's default to be 0 again. Again, in this situation, if we run, you can see that we got the result. And again, if we, let's say, have undefined as our a and run, we got this 1 right here. And let's change this, have different numbers right here. As you see, we can have that. Another last thing that we're going to talk about is in our switch statement. As you know, we have our switch statement, which let's say is checking our a variable that we're going to create in a little bit. And here we have some cases of, let's say, when it's 0, we want to run console log a is 0. And then of course we use this break right here, and let's have multiple of this. 3 is enough, this one is 1, and this is 2. Let's change the printings to okay, and here let's create our switch syntax. Now let's have our a to be 0 at the first. If we run as you expect, we got this result. Next time let's make this 1. Now if we run, this is 1 of course. If we have 2, if we run, we get 2. But what happens if we give this 5 value? Because we have not handled anything right here. If we write, you can see that we got no result. So it's very good to always end your switch statements with the default case that you have. So we use this default, and inside of it, of course, we have our console log again, and we're gonna say here number is out of range. So now we control this one. And now if we run with the value of 5 in the a, you can see that we got this error. No matter how many numbers and how many digits that we have here, again, we're going to have that in the 3, 4, 5, and all of the other numbers, of course. And the last tip I'm gonna talk about with you is using our eval function. Our eval function is a function that is going to run text as code inside of our code. And this is one of the ways that can cause some security problems in our code, and you always have other options to use that. So it's good to not use this eval function inside of your code. And this is how our function works. We have this eval function, of course, right here. Then inside of this, we can run any code that we want. For example, let's say we want simply console log the text right here. Now, because we use double quotations right here, we need to wrap all of these into these columns. And now if we run, by the way that we put these code and this statement in string mode, if we run, again, we got mistyping. And now if we run, you can see that we got running this code. But avoid using this function as much as you can. Please give a like and subscribe to catch next videos.